everybody. This is Ryan McClanahan with HistoryThroughCards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. So, there are two football players that I want to tell you about who have really kind of inspired me over the years. And one is Tommy Thompson, the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles from the 1940s. And the second is Bobby Dillon of the Green Bay Packers from the 1950s. I'm probably going to start off with Tommy Thompson first. And I do have a few notes, so I'm going to use those as reference. I don't have everything stored in the old noggin up here, but Tommy Thompson's really very interesting to me. He came out of the University of Tulsa undrafted, and the Pittsburgh Steelers got him in 1940. At that time, he was a defensive back and a backup quarterback through 1942. Um, the Pittsburgh Steelers actually are really, really interesting in football history, especially around this time, because in 1943 they merged with the Eagles to form the Steagles. I think there's actually maybe two other teams that had done this, or four other teams, if you wish, that had to merge in order to save the league or their teams. At the time during World War II, there was about 600 or a little more than 600 ball players that entered the service in the NFL, and I think it actually has the highest rate of killed in action as far as a professional sport goes. You do see a lot of, unfortunately, you see a lot of killed in action in the minor leagues in baseball, and only two professional baseball players were killed in action during World War II. I think the majority or a lot of baseball players actually either served stateside um, or they were playing on baseball teams throughout the world. This isn't really the case with the NFL, though, and at some point I'm going to get further into that. Now, as far as Tommy Thompson is concerned, when he ended up, I think he was actually traded to the Eagles in 1941, and that's the same year that their head coach was also with the Eagles, which was Greasy Neal. He's in the Hall of Fame as a coach, and you're not going to find any football cards of him. But if you do want a card, he is in the 1921 and 1922 American Caramel set and the 1923 National Caramel set too, which actually I actually think the National Caramel set is probably dated more towards 1921 than 1923. You will find him in a few other sets as well, but he's not all that difficult. And again, he's a very famous Hall of Fame coach. So he, I'm talking about Tommy Thompson here. He went into the service in 1943 and uh, saw limited action uh, in the service. He actually was, I believe, let's try that one again, shall we? English. He served stateside, and the limited service that he did was because he had one eye. Now, this is really interesting. He lost the vision in one of his eyes as a kid. From what the newspaper reported, was that he either had a brick thrown at his head or a rock, but in anyway, he really couldn't see out of his eye, and he never told any of his teammates which eye it was. And I think there's really kind of a good reason for that. Um, it wasn't because his teammates didn't want to play with him because of his disability. But sometimes, if you are disabled, you um, don't want to really say too much about it, depending on where you are, either if it's employment or friendships or just going on a first date or whatever the case may be. There could be reasons why you'd not want to say up front. Yeah, oh, guess what? I'm disabled. Especially on a football team where your adversaries might take advantage of that. But this also really, to me, kind of makes Tommy Thompson stand out in other ways because of his lack of sight. Um, and you're gonna see too as I go forward with his story. Uh, he was a quarterback. He I think was really kind of one of the underrated quarterbacks in the 1940s, and who he had to face as with other quarterbacks is kind of astounding, considering that he did lead the league several times in very specific areas. For example, um, you had I'm sorry, Sammy Baugh, Charlie Connolly, Sid Luckman, and Bob Waterfield. Uh, and I want to put Otto Graham in that as well, although he was with the All American Football League um, up through like 1950. Although he is a great quarterback, and he does belong with those other quarterbacks, and same with Tommy Thompson too. But again, I'm just not terribly familiar with the other league at this time, and that the league did merge with the NFL. I'm getting way ahead of myself here, which I often do, by the way. So he was in an all pro in 1942, and Thompson just got better as he went forward, really, with his career. In 1945, when he came back from the army, he split his duties with two other quarterbacks, uh, Ali Sherman and Roy Zimmerman. And Roy Zimmerman actually gets traded in, I believe, 1947. And Ali Sherman, again, you guys can read up on Ali Sherman, but he does make a pretty significant impact in the NFL. Unfortunately, I don't think either of these ball players have cards, Ali Sherman or Roy Zimmerman. Otherwise, I would be picking up a Ali Sherman card for sure. Uh, in any event, the Eagles in the the early 1940s uh, were not a good team at all, and it wasn't only until about 1945 through 1950 that they uh, really did pick up speed. And Tommy Thompson is in three championships. So in the 1947 championship against the Chicago Cardinals, one of my personal favorite teams of the 1940s. Yes, I am a little biased there, I will admit, because Charlie Trippi is a fan favorite of mine, and he's about 100 years old. And I've heard him give a lot of interviews over the years. And so uh, my hat's off to Mr. Trippy. And so 1947, the Cardinals did win the championship that year against the Eagles. In 1948, the Eagles and the Cardinals faced off again in a blizzard and a snowstorm, and I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that. Although I hate the snow. Um, and then actually, so that 48 team, they were actually 9-2-1. So that's a really good record for the Eagles. In 1949, they won the championship against the Rams. And that game, it was kind of a blowout, a 14-0. But the all-star cast that Tommy Thompson had to work with, um, you have Chuck Bednarik, Steve Van Buren, and Steve Van Buren is I don't think he's talked about enough today. He's really a very instrumental player on those championship teams, and he's really one of the reasons why the Eagles won at least two of those championships and went to a third, even if they couldn't win. Um, and so you also have Pete Fios, and those three guys are in the Hall of Fame. And then you have two other guys who, in my estimation, should have been in the Hall of Fame years ago, and I'm not entirely sure why they're not in the Hall of Fame. And Al Wistert, or Oxwister, who is the captain of the Eagles. It's really kind of a shame if you guys look at his stats and what he did for his teams, and he really deserves to be in the Hall, and I'll probably be talking more about him at some point individually, because I'd love to get him in the Hall of Fame if I could. And then Black Jack Ferrenti as well, and he's somebody who is very underrated as well, and someone the Professional Football Researchers Association has listed as in the Hall of the Very Good. In fact, both Wistert and Ferrenti and Tommy Thompson have been included in the Hall of the Very Good. Uh, some have actually said that Tommy Thompson probably should not be in the Hall of Fame. However, because he only has really three years uh, that he was, really among, Sammy Baugh and Charlie Connolly and Sid Luckman and Bob Waterfield. Charlie Connolly is also not in the Hall of Fame at all, and I really wish that he was. His contributions to his team and to football are really outstanding, I think, especially in 1956, even though I think they won, I think the Giants won in 56. And he wasn't with the team in 1946. I think he came up in 1947 or 48. So he missed that 46 championship that I've heard so much about. And at some point, I'll probably be talking about the championship of 1946 and Charlie Connolly as well. And here I go again, getting off tangent. I always do this because there's just so many great ball players from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s to talk about when it comes to the NFL. And the NFL at this time too, in the 1930s and 40s, is a really fascinating thing to study, not just as a sport, but it is if you're a labor relations expert, I would highly recommend you studying the NFL and even baseball too, for that matter. Baseball primarily is a labor relations nightmare, as far as I'm concerned. Tommy Thompson, he led the league in several categories in between 1947 and 1949. And some of those is touchdown percentage from 49, 40, I'm sorry, 47, 48, and 49. Um, Passer rating in 1948 and 1949, he led the league in, and interception percentage in 1949. He came in second in completion percentage in 1948 and 49, and yards per attempt in 1947. The thing that I think is universally true about Tommy Thompson is just how tough he was as a ball player. And because he only had one eye, basically, he was working with one eye. Um, he was very adept at being a trickster. He probably didn't have much of a choice. He really took a beating on the field too, is what a lot of the players, his teammates, had said. He handled the ball very well, and again, a very strong and accurate thrower. But again, he did a lot of like tricks and stuff to hide the ball. I think they call that deking. And he never used his vision, his lack of vision, as a crutch to get him from one place to another in life. And that's the one real thing I think that Tommy Thompson can teach all of us. Uh, it is that when uh, there's something that gets in your way, you have to figure out a way to go around that in order to succeed and go forward. I see Tommy Thompson as a very successful uh, player and a successful person as well. And as a lot of times I've told you guys in the past, and I do myself have a disability, and um, I really try not to talk too much about it. But in this case, I'm just gonna tell you right off the bat. But I had I had a couple of unusual conversations with people about my disability over the years, and it teaches you quite a bit. The first conversation I had, and I really didn't want to make this about me, but this might actually help somebody else. And it's the only reason why I've really kind of brought it up in my videos, and in one case with my writing on Jefferson Burdick, because Jefferson Burdick was disabled, physically disabled himself, um, and so yeah, the founder of the hobby. I mean, if it wasn't for his disability, we probably wouldn't have a hobby. And think about that for a minute. Um, One of the things that I had a discussion with a friend of mine, uh, and she had asked me if if I had two pills in front of me, and I could take one pill and chug it down and get rid of my disability, would I do that? And I told her no, I wouldn't do that because um, my disability, uh, having cerebral palsy is not the easiest thing in the world to deal with, but it does allow me for a certain compassion towards other people because everybody is different. Everybody learns differently, and that's the one reason uh, why I do videos, even though I don't like to do videos at all. I'm not comfortable with this format at all. But it's not really about me in that instance. It's about you, the viewer. I have information that might help you. So, um, I would not choose to take away my disability. I think it only enhances the way I think, feel, act, and behave towards other people. And the world around me is a little bit different as well because of it. I do view things a little bit differently than I may have normally had I not been disabled. And so that is the reason why. So I've never really been a big fan of the word disability at all. I think it's a word that can pigeonhole somebody into believing that they can't do something because of their disability. Uh, and you never know what you're going to be able to accomplish if you don't try. Now, for me personally, growing up, I had a lot of issues in school. I think I told you guys about some of those. And once you get that moniker disabled, then things start to kind of unravel, which they can if you allow it to. And you know, for me, going into a card shop to learn about math and problem solving skills, uh, was really an amazing thing, as it turns out. Probably the best thing that ever happened. Uh, if in all honesty, and that's because I did not get a chance to learn like my peers. I didn't really have the opportunity. I wasn't really allowed to do so, and sports cards like this were that outlet for me to learn what I really wanted to. And my point being is that if something gets in your way, uh, and you're going to have to figure out ways to go around. That's all it is, and that's the same thing that Tommy Thompson here had to figure out on a game by game basis, and same with Bobby Dillon too. I'm pretty sure. The only one that's going to be able to stop you from achieving your goals in life is you. You may fail. There's no such thing as a guaranteed success. But again, you don't know what you're going to be able to achieve if you don't try. I don't know if Tommy Thompson will ever get in the Hall of Fame. I'm not really sure. He actually trails Sonny Jorgensen for touchdown percentage with those who have 500 career attempts, and he played 99 games, which again, I'm not sure if there's a minimum of games a NFL player has to play before he's selected for Hall of Fame consideration, and I'm not even sure exactly what the game percentage is for baseball players as well. I have no idea exactly, but The other guy I want to talk to you about is, let me see if I know I got a card somewhere of him. Is this gentleman right here, Bobby Dillon. And this actually is a 1956 tops, and he does Bobby Dillon. He's no stranger to sports cards, unlike say uh, Tommy Thompson here, where you're only going to be having the 1948 Bowman, which is his rookie, and then the 50, and then I think he's also on a 1948 Leaf or 49 Leaf. Um, and so the biggest problem that you might find with trying to find his rookie is really kind of finding one at all. It is really tough, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. Historically, it's been a pretty tough card, and it's expensive too, uh, which really kind of bums me out wicked. So someday I'll grab one. Maybe Santa will be good this year for me. I'm not sure, but if you guys don't like the 56, but you do like the image, he's on a 1955 Bowman, and it's basically the same card, but yellow background. My personal favorite of his is the 1959 tops, but I do like that set anyway. It's one of my personal favorites. The same thing really kind of applies to Bobby Dillon as Tommy Thompson here, where Dillon actually lost his eye. And I'm not sure, he had maybe a series of accidents that resulted in the complete loss of his eye. Yeah, he had a glass eye. Um, and I don't think it really affected him in the same way that it affected Tommy Thompson, because Tommy Thompson took an absolute beating on the field. But as far as Dillon goes, he's one of the best in his generation, and the only thing that really kind of kept him out of the Hall of Fame was his team, and I think it also is the same way that Billy Houghton has been overlooked too, because the Green Bay Packers in Dillon's time were absolutely horrendous. In 1958, they only won one game, so they were 1-10-1. But Dillon was a highly respected NFL player in his day. Everybody liked him. His teammates liked him. His opponents respected him, and they liked him as well, if not feared the guy. He is the Packers' all-time interceptions leader, and he led for seven of his 8 years. He led the team in interceptions, and I think he had Emlyn Tunnell on at least some of those teams, and so like he's second most in interceptions in the league in league history, behind Emlyn Tunnell. Uh, he was a notorious ball hawk as well. And me playing with guys who on the basketball team were ball hawks, I couldn't stand it. But he had some like really bad teams. He just awful teams. And uh, in 1958, he was going to retire from play, and Vince Lombardi, in I think his first year, uh, kind of persuaded him to return to the team. So, from what I've heard, he actually quit in 1958. He retired. It's in the press, it's in the papers. And then Vince Lombardi gave him a phone call at 2 a.m. or whatever it is, and said, "Hey, come on back. I'll pay you more money." Whatever the case was, he came back, and he retired in 1959. And again, he retired at age 29. Now, what he did afterwards is really kind of impressive as well. After his career, he got a bachelor's degree in accounting and worked for Wilson Art for 36 years. And he rose basically throughout the company ranks to become the president and CEO by the time he retired in 1995. I think that is really kind of very impressive. I'm sure he also had a name behind him as well, Bobby Dillon. Um, from what I've been told by other collectors, again, his rookie card is really very difficult. It's a card I don't often see, if ever. And again, I'm not sure why that is, but the poor quality of play that the Packers had really, I think, kept him out of the Hall of Fame for at least 50 years. He passed away in, I believe, 2019, and he passed away from dementia, unfortunately, which I think maybe attributed to his time as a football player. I think he was a defensive back, but I could be wrong. Let me double check for you guys. Hold on a minute. Halfback. Okay, so born February 3rd, 1930. I'll show you the back. These are actually kind of nice cards. I do like the 1956 tops quite a bit. The biggest card in that set that I really want is the Jack Carson, and that has really kind of eluded me for forever. Um, it's a tough card. It's a tough card, but um, this one is actually pretty cheap. You guys can get it, and a lot of these cards from the 1950s football are fairly affordable. They're not going to break the bank, especially if they're raw. Graded could be a little bit of a challenge there. However, I'm not much of a graded fan, to tell you the truth. I don't like grading companies, and the only time I'll grab a graded card is if I need the player or the card. It's not about the grading company. Some for some collectors it is, and go for it if you want. But for me personally, it's I'm going for the card itself, and if it happens to be a graded card, well, okay, fine. You know, sometimes you just have to go with what is available to you at the time. And again, some cards are so rare that you're not going to have much of a choice in your options. But I don't think that's actually the case with the majority of football cards from the 1940s, 50s, or 60s. I think the majority of them can be found fairly easily. Um, again, some rookie cards are going to be really expensive. Again, Bobby Dillon's rookie card is expensive. However, he just got in the Hall of Fame in 2020. So you can really kind of expect a lot of their rookie cards of these recent Hall of Famers to go up. Ed Sprinkle is another guy whose card is kind of notoriously difficult to find and is also pretty expensive right now. Ed Sprinkle, obviously much different ball player. I think he was on the Bears, and he's not a ball player that I come across often. Although I think he only has one card out there in the 51 Bowman set. Anyway, again, I always end up getting on these tangents. However, guys, I really want to know what you guys have to say about either of these ball players or anything else that you want to talk about. I'm always open to a free and fair debate. I do love to talk about football and these players and these guys again. They played in a different era and a different generation, um, and so a lot of times they can't be compared to today's ball players. I don't think that's all that fair, to tell you the truth. Uh, you know, these guys had jobs on the side too, where today's NFL players really didn't, and I don't think they got paid all that much either, to tell you the truth, for what they were doing. The other thing too about Tommy Thompson and the Eagles, which I find kind of interesting, is that you know, during the height of World War II, when the Steagles got together, you had a lot of football players on those teams that were 4F. Either they did lose their eyesight, or a few of them were actually deaf, or other ailments as well. I know one guy in particular on that club actually worked on the Manhattan Project, which I think is really kind of impressive. But the thing is, he didn't know that he was on the Manhattan Project. They didn't bother to tell him until years later. However, that just goes to show you that Tommy Thompson really wanted to serve his country, and he didn't let his eyesight get in the way. And the military did know that. They knew that when he entered the service, and that's the reason for his limited service. However, he probably didn't have to go into the military, which to me makes it even more impressive that he did uh, once you put his career on hold to defend our country. Um, and so, with that, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by and checking out my video here. And until the next time, I'll talk to you later. All right, have a good one. Bye.